Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Yo Antaha Pravishya Mama Vacha Imam Prashuptam Sanjeevayati Akila Shaktidara Swadamna Anyamshta Hastacharana Shravanatvagadin Pranan Namo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam लसतु श्रीमदानन्दतीर्थेन्दुर्नो हृदम्बरे यद्वचश्चन्द्रिका स्वान्तसन्तापं विनिकृन्तति पदवाक्यप्रमाणज्ञान् प्रणम्य शिरसा गुरून् व्याकरिष्ये यथाबोधं विष्णुतत्त्वविनिर्णयम्. So, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to folks who have joined for the part 17th of Isha Upanishad. So let's dig in. So we are in the last skanda, as it were, Sakshatkara or Darshana of Bhagavanta that Svayambu or Manu is hoping to have from Yagna Paramatma. So we were doing Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Abhihitam Mukam Tattvam Pushan Apavruno Satyadharmaya Drishtaye. Pushan Yekarshe Yamasurya Prajapatya Vyuha Rashmin Samuha Tejaha. Yette Rupam Kalyanatamam Tattir Pashyami Yo Asau Purushaha So Ahamasmi Vayuranilam Amrutam. This is where we stopped. We were at this interface between these two verses. Yo Asau Purushaha So Ahamasmi Vayuranilam Amrutam. Ata idang basmantam shariram om kratosmara krutam smara agne naya supata raye asman vishwani deva vayunani vidwan yuyodi asmad juhuranamenam guishtante namo muktim videma. So that is the final prayer that Svayambu Manu does to Yagnanamaka Paramatma. So we will cover these two. So Vayur Anilam Amrutam. So we looked at the various names by which Svayambu Manu is actually celebrating his guru, right? He said Matarishwa, he said Asau, he said Vayu, he said Anilam, and then finally he said Amrutam. We have looked at exhaustively the etymology and the contextual relevance of Matarishwa, Asau, Vayu, and Anila. And then he said Amruta. He said, Vayudeva, my guru, Matarishwa, Asau, Anila, you are Amruta. So why did he say Amruta? This is where we left off last time. So to understand why Vayu is considered as Amruta, and it's a frequent theme in the Vedas and also in the Upanishads. So wherever there is Amruta, the first primary Amruta is of course Bhagavanta, and the next Amruta is in the Upanishads, Vayu Tattva. Why? So if you look at the Swayambhu Manu's age, how long does he last in his Manvantara? 306.72 million years. That is equivalent to 71 Divya Yugas. Whereas Brahma Kalpa, the duration of Brahma and Vayu and all the Rijus become the Vayus and then they become the Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma in the Vedic philosophy. Chaturmukha Brahma hangs around for 311.04 trillion years. Okay, so that's a lot compared to Swayambhu Manu. So we are looking at relative existence. And as I told you last time, an ant survives only for a few days. A mosquito probably for a few days. Maybe as you climb up the ladder. And this is interesting. When you look at the Vedic pantheon and how the Vedic creation system is, and you look at how the biological systems are, you will see that the more evolved an organism is, the longer it survives. So humans and the one, they keep on increasing their age. And if you keep ascending upwards to all the jivas that are there in this creation, you will reach Chaturmukha Brahma, who hangs out for 311.04 trillion years. Brahma Kalpa. And then there is the Mahapralaya that happens. So we have various Kalpas, right? Dina Kalpa and then Brahma Kalpa. And then there between the Manvantaras, there are some small partial destruction. So you can go about reading those things. So although Vayu, that Swayambhu Manu is celebrating, lives for a pretty long time, and from Swayambhu Manu's perspective, he considers him as Amruta. Okay. But the fundamental position is even he has to give up his body at the end of Pralaya. Okay? Vayur anilam amrutam ata idang. Ata idang at Pralaya idang. What is that idang? This body of Chaturmukha Brahma, basmantam shariram. Okay? Even his body, he has to give it like all of us. So let us think about this a little bit more. So we are all very familiar with these, isn't it? So the ontological position of all of existence. So the basic philosophy of Vedas is Chaturmukha, Vayu, and down. All of us are Jivas. Period. Yeah, we are all Jivas. Akshara, Paramatma alone is independent and he is a separate category. Then you have the Lakshmi or the Shri Tattva, which is all pervasive like Paramatma, but is dependent on the Paramatma. But then all the rest of us are all atomic. We are all Sharas. So can I request one of us to go through chapter 15, verse 16, 17, and 18, please? Who wants to go for this most popular verse in this group?
Yeah, Manu.
Yeah, go for it.
Vavimau purushau loke sharaschaksara evacha sharas sarvani bhutani kutasthoksara uchyate uttamah purushastvanyah paramatmyetyudarutah yo lokatrayamavishya bibartavyaya ishwarah यस्मात् शरमतीतोऽहम् अक्षरादपि चोत्तमः अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च प्रतितः पुरुषोत्तमः.
Thank you, Sushruth. Beautiful. So, this is the basic. That is why these three verses are so foundational for Vedic philosophy of chapter 15. And every opportunity we should remind about this chapter 15, Purana Purushottama Yoga, verses 16 to 20. Particularly 16, 17, and 18 is actually the summary of Vedic philosophy, which is what Svayambu Manu is reminding us. Even Vayu, Anilam, Amritam, but he has to shed his body because he is a Kshara Purusha. Ksharaha Sarvani Bhutani. All of us are Kshara Purushas and we carry some kind of bodies. Yeah, it could be Linga Sharira, it could be Sukshma Sharira, it could be Stula Sharira, or it could be some other Sharira that you might have if you are an exalting Tattva Abhimani Devata. But you have to give up your body. So that is a primary analysis. So when we did these verses, we said Paramatma alone is an independent Akshara. Shri Tattva is called Kutasto Akshara. Kutam Stapayati Aksharaha equals Kutasto Aksharaha. Shri Tattva. Then you have all Ksharas like us, we shed our bodies. Kshaya, Kshara, we shed our bodies. Yeah. And, evidences like Paramashruti, Skanda Purana, they all give clear evidences who is Kutastha Akshara, who is Akshara, and who is Kshara. Brahma Shivaha Rudradrayashta Sharirat Ksharanat Ksharaha Lakshmi Ksharadehatvat Aksharaha Tat Paro Harihi Paramashruti. So these are all very clear statement. Etadeva Aksharam Brahma, Etadeva Aksharam Param, Katha Upanishad. Om iti etad Aksharam Idang Sarvam, Mandukya Upanishad. So everywhere you go, you will see these kind of words coming up in our Upanishads. But the basic fundamental principle is we are all Ksharas. So when we are all Ksharas, we just have to go back a little bit more and understand what does that actually mean. If Vayu Tattva has got a body and if that body is actually, it actually basmantam, it actually gets destroyed. Okay. So what is the body of Chaturmukha Brahma? It is not a body like you and me. Yeah. He's not having a densely gross body like you and me. Okay? So for that, we have to go back to our journey of souls and our creation and have to understand how this material world comes into being. You have Paramatma Vishnu, then you have the Mula Prakriti. Mula Prakriti, of course, then becomes three, isn't it? Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And the Abhiman is a Shri, Bhu, and Durga. And a component of this becomes Mahat Tattva. And the Mahat Tattva becomes the body of Chaturmukha Brahma and Vayu. then a portion of Mahat Tattva becomes Ahankara Tattva, which becomes the body of Rudra. This Ahankara Tattva should not be compared with Ahankara, the ego of the mind. Yeah, that they're all different terms. Here, the Ahankara Tattva means a subtle matter. And Rudra has that matter. And then the Rudra differentiates into three: Vaikarika, Tejasa, and Tamasa. They also have Rudra's body. Rudra takes these bodies. And then it is Rudra, then he starts bringing forth all the creation. Yeah. So we have done that in creation. So in that sense, Rudra brings Tanmatras, and then all the, Indriyas and Manas and everything else. They come from Vaikarika, Tejas, and Tamas Ahankara. But that is actually a component of Mahat Tattva, which is under control of Chaturmukha. And ultimately, Mahat Tattva is under the control of Shri Bhu Durga, who controls Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And that is controlled by Mula Prakriti and finally by Vishnu. So when I say Atato Brahma Jignasa Om, Janmadhyasya Yataha Om, I should be thinking about that Janmadhyasya Yataha as Vishnu from this aspect, and everything else in relative terms of dependent fashion. Okay, so that is how you do it. So Rujus are a class of jivas that the Vedas say become Vayus and Brahmas with every creation, because we've had infinite creations in the past, right? And we are going to have infinite creations in the future. So in every creation, the batch of Rujus that become Vayu and the Vayu then becomes Chaturmukha Brahma keeps changing. So this is really fascinating stuff that you can read about. So Rujus become Vayu, Vayu become Chaturmukha Brahma, and he hangs out for 311.0 something trillion years for Brahma Kalpa. And then when he gets liberated, he goes to the transempirical plane as liberated Chaturmukha Brahma. So Ataidam Basmanta means Mahat Tattva, which is the body. And that body is not tightly attached like us. For our body is tightly attached to us, whereas Chaturmukha and Vayu's body is Dagda Patayamanavat, as it's called in Shastras. It is there. That is it. And it doesn't do anything. It is just there. Dagda Patayamanavat. It is like wearing a very thin cloth. That is how Chaturmukha's Mahat Tattva body is. So we understand this. So in that sequence, we also understand how the journey of souls happens, isn't it? So we have been there already. So we have Linga Sharira, we have Karmas, then we have Sukshma Sharira, then we have Stula Sharira. We go through the cycle. Eventually, we shed our Stula Shariras. Then we have a pristine Linga Sharira with no karmic imprints. Then at the end of Pralaya and just before the next Srishti happens, we make our various paths and we jump on to our liberation. That is what happens for jivas. Now, here is a subtle point here for some of you who might be interested. The Vedas also describe that the higher sentient beings, such as Chaturmukha and Vayu, they also shed their Mahat Tattva and they go through what is called Narasimha Agni. Okay, so you can read about this. What is Narasimha Agni? What is Viraja Nadi, and so on. So those are for a deeper contemplation. But the theme there is they have to shed their body before they go to the liberated state. Okay, so hold on to this idea, because why is it that Svayambu or Manu is actually talking about all this? Yeah, that is what we are interested, right? Now, here is a reminder about Katha Upanishad. And I told you about this. Tataha Sargeshu, Lokeshu, Sharirattvaya Kalpate. If you remember that Katha Upanishad verse, it actually gave a little bit more of a clarity as to when is it that the jivas actually shed the Linga Sharira, or when is it that the Chaturmukha Brahma or Vayu actually shed their Sharira, which is Dagda Pataya Manavata. How does that happen? Tata Sargeshu Lokeshu Sharirattvaya Kalpate. When the next creation happens, so when there is Pralaya, all the jivas go into the womb. They're all hanging out there. And then when the next creation happens, three things happens. Ones that are eligible go to Moksha. The ones that are eligible for Naraka go to Naraka, Andatamas, and the ones like us hang out in Samsara. So that is how it gets. The system is. So I just wanted to put a reminder there. But there is another very important point here that needs to be said. Vayur Anilam Amrutam. That Amrutam has another deeper connotation. Veda Vyasa has settled this particular question in a particular sutra called Om Yetena Matarishva Vyakyataha. Okay, so this is a very beautiful point. So when the Pralaya has happened and when the Chaturmukha and Vayu have gone into the womb of Paramatma, okay, what happens to them? Are they aware Are they aware of what's happening, or they are also in deep suspended animation like you and me? So that is a discussion. So this I find fascinating because our rishis have not left any topic undiscussed. So even in Brahman's womb, when they are there, what happens to Chaturmukha and Vayu? So Badarayana talks about this. Go back and check out the sutra. Yetena Matarishwa Vyakyataha. That is the explanation as to why Svayambu Manu has spoken about Vayur Anilam and your Amrutam. Okay. So now as soon as he said Vayur Anilam Amrutam Ataidang Basmantam Shariram, then he goes back to Paramatma. Okay. So Paramatma, this process you've got, you're giving us this samsara, we're going this round and round in cycles. Then, like Chaturmukha Brahma, some of us can sometimes have the aparoksha jnana, and some of us can actually shed our body and we can move on to the other side. Okay. This whole process, right? This whole process, what does it require? This whole process requires divine grace. That is a fundamental problem, it's a fundamental dictum of theistic Vedanta, that God's grace is absolutely essential for salvation. Those who think that knowledge alone is liberating, it's good luck to them, because knowledge is a jada. Even for knowledge to do something, there has to be a sentient thing behind it. Yeah. So that is the argumentation there. Jnana alone is not liberating. Divine grace alone is liberating. Period. That is the fundamental dictum of Vedic philosophy. So to bring home the truth, Swayambhu Manu now goes back to his Paramatma, the Antaryam in the Yagnanamaka Paramatma, whom he is seeking refuge. And he says, Om Kratosmara Krutam Smara. Om Kratosmara Krutam Smara. So he says this twice. Okay. So here I wanted to remind you again, when we study Isha Upanishad, it's always interesting to see what are all the names of Paramatma. As we know, the names of Paramatma is actually his adjectives. It describes some qualities of Paramatma. So what are all the qualities of Paramatma that Swayambhu Manu has reminded us here? He said Isha, he said Atma, he said Satya, he said Pushan, he said Ekarshi, he said Yama, he said you are Surya, and he said you are Prajapatya. And now he adds in a few extra names for Paramatma. He calls him Om and he calls him Krato. He gives two new names for Paramatma, Om and Krato. So what we will do for the next maybe 15 minutes or so is it's basically revision. Most of us know, now most of us have done this before, and we can maybe think about this a little bit more. Okay. So he says Om, O Yagnanamaka Paramatma, you are called Om. Okay. And not just Swayambhu Manu in this Upanishad. Every Upanishad will have Om as it will start with Om, or it will have a discussion about Om. Look at Chandogya Upanishad. Om iti etad aksharam udgitam upasita. The very first verse of Omkara. Om iti etad aksharam udgitam upasita. Mandukya Upanishad, very first verse. Om iti etad aksharam idam sarvam tasya upavyakyanam bhuta bhavad bhavishyaditi. Sarvam Omkare. Yeah. Mandukya Ocean, Omkaro Vidito Yena Samuner Naitano Janaraha. He who knows about Omkara is a real Muni, not anybody else. Katha Upanishad, what did Yama start? When he started about the third boon and he started talking about Paramatma, he gave this very beautiful verse, right? Sarve Vedaha Yat Padamamananti, Tapamsi Sarvanicha Yadvadanti, Yad Ichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti, Tatte Padam Sangrahena Bravimi, Omityetat. Even the Pranava Vidya of Taittiriya Upanishad gives an exhaustive discussion of Om. Okay. So what I just wanted to do is maybe a couple of minutes so that we recollect our thoughts before we move on to the next slide. A brief recap of the Omkara that comes, it's a frequent thing that happens in the Upanishad. And whatever the name of Paramatma is given, the Rishi will eventually come back to Om. So let us do a brief recap from Gayatri Mantra, Mandukya Upanishad, and Katha Upanishad to just think about who is this Omkara. So who wants to start off? This is just a 2 minutes interactive session for us to remind ourselves what this Omkara actually is. So who wants to go first, please?
Oh, yeah.
Neeta,
okay.
go for it. You start off.
Yeah. Yeah, just to start off, Om is the Bija mantra, or the starting point from where the Gayatri mantra comes, and then the Bhurvaswad. And from that comes the Purusha Suktam, and Purusha Suktam to all the Vedas. So it is the main condensed form of all the Vedas, and also representing Bhagwanta. There are multiple meanings. Including omnipotent, omniscient, and in different forms of Lord. So I'll stop at that. There are many other interpretations. I'll let others speak.
Excellent, excellent, Neetaji, fantastic. Anybody wants to chip in here, or shall I just keep going? Yeah, Anand, go for it.
So Madhu, Om is an abbreviation, and it has three letters, Uma. I think from these three letters comes the Gayatri Mantra, and then from these comes the Purusha Sukta, and then we have all the Vedas. Om is also the name of God. It's the Pranava, signifying Hari.
Beautiful, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, no worry. Neetaji, if you want to put another one.
I just wanted to say it
I
also
think
represents.
Agnimile Purohitam comes with who and something I had heard like that, because I'm not an expert in this.
Okay, Shilaji, thank you.
Agnimile,
Yeah.
it starts with and who.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah,
think you had
yeah,
said
yeah. You're
something
right.
like that.
You got the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Different forms of different stages of sleep, and then the eight. What I think Shilaji was trying to say is the eight parts to
Yeah,
Om.
beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Manjari and Sharadji.
Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
From whatever I've read, I mean, the meaning of Om is defined in the Hindu scriptures as being the primordial sound of creation. It is said to be the original vibration of the universe. And it's the first vibration from which all the other vibrations are manifest. So I really don't understand what is the meaning of this, but this is what I've read.
Thank you, Saraji. Excellent. So excellent contribution. So let's do a whistle stop tour, basically a revision. What I have done is just crystallized and put all the things that we have done over the last 3.5 years. Wherever Omkara has come, I've just come and put them all together for our benefit. So what is Om? So this is what it is, a summary slide actually. And as Neetaji said, Om is called Pranava. So Neetaji, do you want to come in and say, why is it called Pranava? There are two etymologies like Pranava and pra plus na plus va. Okay, so I'll keep going. So it's called Pranava because pra stands for Prakrishta. Nava means Stuti. So the greatest or the highest Stuti of Paramatma is called Pranava. Pra plus na plus va. Okay, that is also another. Nakaro balam. Vam means nakara, vakara, jnana, and bala. Bala comes with jnana. So all those things. So Prakrishta, that which is full of jnananandamaya is Pranava. So Omkara is the name of Paramatma. And it is also called Bijakshara Mantra. And that will come to the next, we'll understand why it's Bijakshara Mantra. I think Anandji and Shushrut have already spoken about this. So in this context, in Isha Upanishad, why did Svayambu Manu use the word Om there? So we'll always have to look at the context. And you will be amazed that there is always a contextual relevance to why our rishis put these kind of words. But here, why is it put? Because you remember the previous letter, he has actually described this Vayu as Anila. And in a Paramamukya Vritti, Paramatma is also called Anila. Okay, everything rests under him. Yeah, that Vishnu Kurma is also Anila. So to bring home those ideas, so when you look at Omkara, you can look at it in various ways. The first meaning of Omkara that we should never forget is Omkara is a name of Paramatma. Saratji is very right with regards to the vibrations. That vibrations is when Paramatma says Om, then the vibrations, then the creation starts. The ripples in the ripples in Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas start, and then the mixing up happens and so on. So that we have done in Chandogya and so on. So, but primarily Omkara is a name of Paramatma. How is it a name of Paramatma when you look at it as an Akhanda word? Ota Prota, that which holds everything together. That which holds the universe together is called Om. It comes from the Uyi Dhatu, Ota Prota. Uyate iti Om, Otatvachi iti Omkaraha. Then, of course, there is the avadhatus that you can read up. Avagatau iti om, avavyaptau iti om, avasamartye iti om, avagame iti om, avapraveshe iti om, avarakshe iti om, avavadhe iti om. Okay. Then if you look at splitting the words, akara, ukara, and makara. Akara, ukara, and makara, they're actually abbreviations like United States of America, like the National Health Service. So like the United Kingdoms, it is just an abbreviation of Paramatma to understand his qualities. Akara stands for Allah, Illa, Anyata, Viruddha, Ananta. He is entirely different from matter. Avyaya, Ajaha, Aksharaha. We've just seen Aksharaha. He is Atitaha. He is in the past. Agamana. He does all the creation, as Saraji mentioned. Uttama, Unnata, Utkrishta, Utpanna, Uttana. Mana, Meya, Manam. So there are so many meanings when you expand Akara, Ukara, and Makara. Then when you take Om has 4 components, Akara, Ukara, Makara, and Nada. That has its own connotation, discussed in Mandukya Upanishad, where it talks about the 4 forms of the Paramatma that controls the 4 states of consciousness of the Jivas, Vaishva, Tejasa, Prajna, and Turiya. It also represents Krishna, Rama, Narasimha, and Varaha. Then, of course, if you take it as a 8 components, it describes the 8-fold dispensation of the cosmos. So that whole Omkara, and as people say, as Mandukya itself says, Omkara vidito yena sa muner na itaro janaha. So there are so many things to contemplate about Om. This is another summary slide. Omkara actually gives us an idea about the concept of God. It tells us that he is Akshara, he is a supreme being. It tells us that he is infinite auspicious attributes, no defects. Jnananandamaya is omniscient and omnipotent. He creates, he maintains, and he destroys the universe. In the Pindanda, he is there as Atma. A stands for Atma, you can take that. So he is in Pindanda as your Antaryaman. And in the Brahmanda, he is omnipresent being, which is celebrated as Sarvaha in Mandukya Upanishad. He is in everything, he is at all times and in all places. And in Brahmanda, of course, he is everywhere. And that is why Om, I've reminded you, Om, the German word omni or the English Latin words omni come from the word Om. So when our Catholic philosophers say omnipresent or omniscient or omnipotent, they're actually talking about the Omkara Tattva. Yeah, so we should never forget this, that Om is actually in it already. Yeah, so and again, as Neetaji very beautifully explained, that is how the whole sounds of the universe explain. And Acharya and Rigbhashyam says that very beautifully. Om asesha gunodara iti narayano apyaso purno bhutivaro anantasukho yad vyahriti riritaha gunaistataha prasavita varaniyo gunonnatehe bharati jnana rupatvad bargo dhyeyo akilair janaihi Prerako asesha buddhinam sa gayatri artha iritaha sa purnatvat pumannama paurushe shukta iritaha sa eva akila vedartaha sarva shastrartha evacha. So beautiful words. And Mahaitreya Upanishad, not just the Vedas, which as Neetaji and Anand mentioned, Vyahriti, then Gayatri, then Purusha Shukta, then all the Vedas, Rig, Yajus, and Samas. That is where Sheilaji came in. She mentioned the idea of Agni Mile. So the very first letter of Vedas is Akara, Agni Mile Purohitam. Okay, and that is where it comes. And then we have discussed how this AUM actually stands for Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Sama Veda, or Padya, Gadya, and Gana, and so on. And not just only that, Aitreya Upanishad then says, Tava eta sarvaha richaha sarve vedaha sarve goshaha eka eva vyahritihi prana eva prana richa eva iti eva vidya. So all sounds of the universe. So when Svayambu or Manu is talking about this Omkara, it has actually got deep philosophies, and we should never run away from doing our revision and reminding ourselves why has Svayambu or Manu said Omkara? Because he's got this Yagnanamaka Paramatma who is inside him. And this Yagnanamaka Paramatma is the supreme Brahman himself. And this Brahman is celebrated as Omkara because it is an abode of infinite auspicious attributes and without defects. So these are all the ideas that should come to us. Now the next one, he says, Om Yagnanamaka Paramatma, you are Om and you are also Krato. So this is very interesting. He labels this Paramatma as a krato, kruta, kru plus ta, kru dhatu, kram, kriyate iti kram, karma. Okay. Kru stands for karma. Karma means the actions that we do. Tha stands for tarayati, that which get rid of our karmas. Okay, so this is interesting. Who wants to take up 437, please, of Gita? Who wants to recite 437? Otherwise, I can ask one of us to do. Neetaji, go for it.
यथैधांसि समिद्धोऽग्नि भस्मसात् कुरुतेऽर्जुन ज्ञानाग्निः सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा.
Beautiful. So look at that word basmasat. Ata idang basmantam shariram. Yeah, basmantam of Svayambu, Manu. And look at Gita verse. Ata idamsi samiddo agnir basmasat kurute Arjuna. Jnana agnihi sarva karmani basmasat kurute tata. Okay, so Veda Vyasa is not putting these words like basmasat just by sheer luck. There are some deep philosophies there of linking what Svayambu is saying in Isha Upanishad and what Krishna is saying here. Because at the end of the day, Gita is a summary of all the Upanishads, right? So here what he's saying is Jnana Agni. What is it that destroys karmas? Our bad karmic imprints that we have on our Linga Sharira. What is it that destroys it? Jnana destroys it. What is that Jnana called? Jnana Agni. That Jnana Agni destroys all the karmas. But I've just told you that Jnana is an insentient thing. Jnana alone cannot do anything. So it has to be something behind it. So that Jnana Agnihi, Agni, Om Kruto Smara. Okay, that Jnana Agnihi is Paramatma himself. Because at the end of the day, you can do whatever good deeds you want. Okay, but if his divine grace is not there, you're not going to be able to get rid of this. So in that sense, a Paramatma who is Jnana, he's a Jnana Agni, he's a Jnanananda Swarupa. So there literally, as Raghavendra Yati settles it there, Kruto Jnana Rupa Harehe. Yeah, in his work. So in his Kandartha, he would say, Kruto Jnana Rupa Harehe. Why is Svayambu Manu talking about this Paramatma as Kruto? Because Jnana Agnihi Sarva Karmani Basmasat Kurute Tata. So now you can look at this verse from an entirely different angle when you link it up with what Svayambhu Manu is saying. Okay. So again, I come back to this again. Divine grace is absolutely essential for liberation. No ifs, no buts. That is primarily required. Why is that? Because the next two verses are really beautiful. Swayambhu Manu, actually, he's got this Yagnanamaka Paramatma who is in front of him, but he's also his Antaryamin, right? He's inside him. He's pleading now. He's pleading this Swayambhu Manu. I have been spending so much time reciting these 17 verses in Isha Upanishad. These Asura fellows are behind me trying to tackle me and kill me. And I need your grace, mate. I need your grace, Yagna. Do something. And he says, Om Krato Smara. Okay. Krato is the name of Yagnanamaka Paramatma or Paramatma. He says, Om Krato Smara. Smara means what? Remember, right? Smara is very easy there. Smara means remember. So the beauty there is, who has to remember whom? Okay. So this is, our Acharyas resolve this very beautifully. And what they say is, Swayambhu Manu is pleading to Paramatma, may I remember you always. Okay. May you be in my memory always. May I remember you always. But most importantly, in this situation where the Asuras are trying to tackle him, he's saying, please remember me, Yagna. Please remember me. Bless me with your grace. That is the literal meaning there. Please remember me. I'm trying to pray. I'm trying to do lots of good things. Don't forget me. You are inside me as my Antaryamin. Don't forget me. Please grace me. Remember me. So it's a very, you could say it's a very casual way of saying, please remember me, mate. Basically, remember means what? Please shed your grace on me. Kritam smara. Remember all my deeds. Yeah. I might have done all sorts of deeds, but you are the eternal witness inside me as my Antaryamin. Yeah. Remember my deeds and dispense whatever I deserve. Yeah. So this is the spirit of this verse. Om Kratosmara Krutam Smara. Krutam Smara there means my actions you remember, because you are the Antaryamin in everything. So you know you are the Sarvagnya. You are the Sarvagnya and Sarvakarta, and you know everybody who is everywhere. So remember me, grace me, and remember all the actions that I've done. Please shed that grace. Even that actions that I've done is because of you, but please remember me. And he puts it twice. Om Kratosmara Krutam Smara, Om Kratosmara Krutam Smara. So he's pleading to Yagnanamaka, look, my guru, I've learned everything from my guru. I've now got the right knowledge. I am actually having the aparoksha jnana. But of course, at the end, like how for Vayu, Ataidam Basmantam Shariram, he also has to shed his body and go to moksha. And every stage, I need my guru's grace. Not only my guru's grace, I need your grace also. If only I have the guru's grace, then I get your grace. And what is your grace? Remove my karmas and shed your grace on me. So he puts it twice, and it's a very beautiful mantra. Vayuranilam amrutam ataidam basmantam shariram om kratosmara krutam smara om kratosmara krutam smara. And that is why I keep saying we should actually get into Svayambu Manu's shoes and then do these kind of mantras and contemplation as to how we should be approaching the Paramatma in our daily prayers and so on. So next he puts another beautiful mantra. This is the last verse for today, and it is the last verse for Isha Upanishad. This is a prayer, that Svayambu Manu offers to Paramatma. And my humble request is that we probably need to memorize this and try and recite, if you can, every day, whenever, whatever actions you're doing. Okay. So this is a prayer that Svayambu Manu is saying. So how does it goes like this? Agne Nayasupata Raye Asman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan Yuyodi Asmat Juhuranam Enam Bhuishtam te namo uktim videma. So I've split these lines out for our benefit. So when you say this, it's a beautiful prayer. Agne naya supata raye asman vishwani deva vayunani vidwan yuyodi asmat juhuranamenam bhuishtam te namo uktim videma. So you can do your prayers like that. What is he saying here? What is the very first verse? Agni, that Shilaji was talking about, of Agni Mile Purohitam. And here, he goes to the highest worship. Okay, he goes to the highest levels of worship, and he gives Paramatma Agni as the name. Okay, so I've documented all the names. Let's do it again. Isha, Atma, Satya, Pushan, Ekarshi, Yama, Surya, Om, Krato, Agni. He finishes off with Agni. And it's not a coincidence that he has done Agni, because what did we do in this previous verse? Jnana Agnihi Sarvakarmani Basmasat Kurute Tata. So now you can understand those links of Veda Vyasa. That's why Veda Vyasa is a genius. He is a Sarvagnya. So he then puts this Agni there. Agni, he worships him as Agni. Paramatma, Yagnanamaka, you are Agni. Okay. So we have done Agni a number of times. Who actually is Agni? We have done it in Chandogya Upanishad. Agni is not material Agni. Okay. Fundamental mistake we should never do is when Rig Veda starts with Agnim Ile Purohitam, that Agni there is not material Agni. It is not Pradhana Agni, who is 15th rank. It is not Kala Agni Rudra, who is 5th rank. It is not Prana Agni or Chaturmukha Agni, which is 3rd rank. It is not Kalagni Durga, no, 2nd rank, no. It is Agni Narayana, who is called Agni. These fellows get Agni in the sense that Tadeva Anupravishati. This Agni Narayana is inside all these chappies as their Antaryamin. Therefore, they also get a name Agni. But Agni primarily means only Agni Narayana. So we cannot have any doubts about that. And that is the reason why Agni is the most important symbol of Pratika of Brahman on earth. We all do Agni, Homa, Havan of various types. And let us not make the mistake of just thinking this is material Agni and throw, various seeds and stuff that these Purohits ask us to do without even explaining what is it that they are doing. Yeah. So that is not the meaning there. It is actually celebrating this Agni. Okay. Now here is another important idea here. Agni Devata. Yeah. So here I have a small little question. Okay. Agni Devata is Abhimani of what in Pindanda? So who is going to take that?
Nan here, but can I tell?
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, it is Agni is for speech.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Very, very well said, Shopaji.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So Agni is the Agni Devata, 15th rank. This guy is the Abhimani Devata of speech. And he is the Abhimani Devata of speech because inside him is this Antaryami called Agni who ensures that this Agni Devata performs his actions properly. So that is how you contemplate in Vedic philosophy. So he's praying simultaneously, please, may I do my prayers properly. So that is because he is starting off with this prayer, right? He is giving his final prayers of submission. And he is thinking about these ideas. My speech, the prayer that I do every day, the prayer that I am doing today, you only have to grace this. That is why you are Agni. And Agni Devata is under your control. That is why you are called Agni. Yeah. But there is another bigger meaning for Agni. When Agni Sukta starts with Agnim Ile Purohitam Yagnasya Devam Rut Vijam Hotaram Ratna Datamam. Yeah. So I've just done a Padapata. So that Agni, who is that Agni? Okay. So to understand how can that Agni actually denote Paramatma or Narayana, you have to go to Rigbhashyam. Yeah. Not Sayana's interpretation of Rig Veda. You have to go to Rigbhashyam of Acharya, where he gives very clearly what the etymology of Agni is. Agni Shabdo Ayam Agra Eva Abhi Pujyatam. Agrayatvam. Agna Netrutvam. Attim. Anganga Netrutam. So that is the etymology of Agni. So we need to be thinking about it because Svayambu Manu is thinking like this because he is a high ranking devata, isn't it? That is how he is thinking. He is not thinking about material Agni. Yeah. So Agre Niyati, the first to be adored. Paramatma is the first to be adored. Agre Nayati iti Agnihi. Agrayatvat Agnihi, the first and the foremost of all. Before creation, Anidavatam Swadaya Tad Ekam. Yeah, we have done all those verses. The first and the foremost of all. Agre Nayati, the prime mover of all. Attim, the devourer of all. Atti iti Agnihi. Angam Nayati, in our Pindanda, he is the activators of all bodies. If he is not there, we are dead. Sattu Hoda. Settu Poitan. When the Sat is gone, the body falls because he is Angam Nayati, activators of bodies of all. Agam Nayati, activator of all, or else they will remain inert. Okay? So those are all the profound meanings of Agni. Yeah. So when a Western chap tells us, oh, you guys were cavemen, were running around fire and throwing things, that is far from truth. It only exposes their ignorance. Our Vedic Rishis, when they did Agni Mile and the fire sacrifice, their philosophy was much more profound. Yeah, so we should never forget why Svayambu or Manu used the word Agni. Okay. So he said Agni, Agne. Then he said Naya Supataraye Asman. So this particular the next parts of the slides will flow very, very easily for us. Okay. Naya, lead us, direct us, grace us. Supata, pata means what? A path of Shreyas. Supata, a good path towards Shreyas. And of course, Katha Upanishad and Gita have spoken about Archiradi, Devayana, and all that. So you can read about this. That is what he's saying. Supata. Raye is very interesting. So the same Agni Sukta will says, Agnina Rayim Ashnuvat. Okay, there in that Agni Sukta, it will say Agnina Raim Ashnuvat. Here Svayambu Manu is saying Agne Naya Supata Raye. So the Raye is again a frequent word in Vedic mantras. Raye, Raim. What that means is wealth. What is wealth? Material things is not wealth. The true wealth is knowledge. It is knowledge that never ever goes away. We may acquire wealth, and our gurus tell us you may acquire wealth, but every time you spend the money is gone. Okay? Every time you put some money somewhere, the money is gone. Whereas knowledge is different. Every time you spend knowledge by giving, by preaching others or by telling others, your knowledge only increases. So it is always a positive reinforcement. It never depletes. It only goes up. So he is saying, Swayambhu Manu, take us towards this path. Naya Supata Raye, knowledge, towards knowledge, because it is only knowledge that leads to moksha and nothing else. And he puts a very beautiful word, Asman. Asman means us. Okay. So when our rishis do any mantras, even Gayatri mantra, it says Naha. Diyo yo Naha prachodaya. Naha also means us. Asman means us. So the rishis always, they include everybody else, not just me. Swayambhu Manu says, don't just give us the grace so that we move towards the right path. Let all sattvika jivas, let all the jivas have an opportunity to move towards Shreyas. Bless us with that. Okay. Agne Nayasupata Raye Asman. Then he says, you are my Antaryamin, right? You are the Antaryamin. You are Sarvagnya. You know everything, Paramatma. Vishwani Vayunani. So the first half there, Vishwani. So you have to have Vishwani and Vayunani, and then Deva with Vidwan. So Vishwani Vayunani. Vishwani means all. All what? All knowledge, material knowledge, whatever knowledge that we may have. Vayunani means what? Thoughts. Yeah, remember our karma starts from the mind. Yeah, we might try to cheat people but our intentions may be very, very wrong. God makes a note of that. What is going on in your mind only, he is making a note, not the actions that you do with your hands or legs. Yeah, that becomes very, very important. Vayunani. So all of this that we are doing, oh Deva, you only know, Vidwan. You only know all the things that I have thought, all the nasty things that I am thinking of doing, bad things to others, etc., etc. You are there as my Antaryamin Sarvagnya. You only know this. Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan. The next one is beautiful. All the thoughts and all the things that we do, they only become our karmic imprints. Yeah, so we know all that. So we know our intentions. It is our intentions that decide whether we have a karmic imprint on our linga sharira or not. Whether we are doing sakama karma or nishkama karma. That is what dictates, right? So it is all there in our thoughts and they lead to karmic imprints. So here, although we may be doing good karmas, we might be doing good things, we might be doing nishkama karmas, still we have been around forever. Yeah, that is the Vedic philosophy. We have been there for millions of births before, and we probably have millions of births in the future. So we have so much karma in our linga sharira, it is almost impossible to get rid of karma. Every birth leads to 10 other births, whether you like it or not. How much ever nishkama karma you do, the bag of karma that you have accumulated is so much, you just cannot get rid of it. So there has to be a process, isn't it? That process is the divine grace that removes the accumulated karmas during aparoksha jnana, which is what Swayambhu Manu is having. Yeah, so remember those ideas. So Swayambhu is saying, Yuyodi, remove. Yuyodi literally means separate. Remove asmat from us. Juhuranam, yeah, that which is pulling us down to samsara. What is it that is pulling us down to samsara? Yenaha. These what? These accumulated karmas. Okay. With my thoughts and actions that you are a witness to, I have accumulated so much karma. And there is no way in which I can get rid of this. You only have to shed your grace. So this is an analogy, a metaphor here of us sinking in this ocean called the samsara with these karmic imprints. That is the load that we carry on our linga sharira. Okay, and we are sinking in samsara in this ocean. And Swayambhu Manu is praying to Paramatma, Please remove it. You are the one who has put us in samsara. Please also grace us and remove this lock, remove this karma, remove this weight that is pulling me down. If you remove this weight, at least I can go up and try and get to some higher levels of existence. Yuyodi asmat juhuranam yenaha. Okay, so here is where Svayambu Manu finishes off the Isha Upanishad at a very high note. He says, I've said all this. I may be a Manvantara, I may be a head of this Manvantara and so on. And you are an independent principle who controls everything. Nothing is in my hands. Okay, that is what Swayambhu Manu finally says. Nothing is in my hands. All that I can do, and in that process, all that we can do. Okay, that is why we are doing this satsang and we are doing this Upanishad Chintana, is to understand what is in it for me in all this contemplation. Think about what Swayambhu Manu is saying here. Puishtam te namaha uktim videma. All that I can do, yeah, because I'm such a dependent, helpless being, all that I can do is, I can praise you. I can praise you with some great mantras and prayers I can do. Uktim videma. We shall offer those words of salutation with devotion and love to you. Okay? Why? We ourselves are too weak to remove karma. Dravyam karmascha kalascha swabhavo jiva evacha yad anugrahataha santi nasanti ajupekshaya. Yeah, you know that Bhagavatam verse. Yeah. So there, even that karma is under the control of Paramatma. And we ourselves are too weak to remove karmas. Okay? So he is saying, please help us remove our karmas. I cannot do it, but the only process in which I can do this is I have to surrender unto you. And how can I surrender unto you? Because I'm such a speck, I'm such a useless thing in the grand scheme of the universe. All that I can do is Bhuishtam te namaha uktim videma. Okay. So I put this small picture here. Who wants to talk to us about this? What does this picture signify in Bhagavatam and what is the story? Who wants to go for it, please? This particular picture of an elephant.
Is it Gajendra Moksha?
Correct, Sushru. Do you want to explain what is the Gajendra Moksha, philosophy in Bhagavatam?
I can't remember the philosophy. I just remember the story that the crocodile comes and bites the elephant and he remembers Narayana for moksha. But I don't know the philosophy behind it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Gajendra
Sushru.
was a king before, isn't it? Who used to pray a lot. So he has accumulated good karma. That's why even then he, in the end, he is able to, when he says Narayana, then Vishnu comes to. So although he's a very powerful Mother Gaja, or the one with a lot of power, at that moment he's stuck.
Yeah, so yeah, fantastic. So which mantra does he state at that point? Can you recall that one? But anyway, we got quite a few contributions here. Keep thinking about what is that mantra that Gajendra was telling. So Anand, and then we'll go to Sharatji and Manjariji first, then Anand, and then Shilaji. So Sharat, you need to unmute.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
So yes, people have already contributed. As far as I know, Gajendra was he was a very good king, but he was also very arrogant, very proud of himself as his strength. So he used to be a very powerful elephant who used to be very proud of his strength, and used to be like the lord of jungle, and you would not be afraid of anybody. And so once it so happened that his leg got stuck with the crocodile or the alligator and it wouldn't leave him. And he said to have recited this Gajendra Moksha for several hundred years. I don't know what is exact period of time.
Yeah.
But he initially tries to free from crocodile. But after some time he realizes that it's completely impossible. At which point he starts praying to the Lord. And only when he surrenders completely, that is when Lord Vishnu gets up in a hurry, leaves everything and comes and saves him. So perhaps it's a metaphor that when we try to reach out God, initially we have to do our manava prayatna. We have to keep on doing it. It's like playing a game of chess with the Lord and ultimately losing the game of chess.
Yes.
So you go on playing the game of chess, you go on trying doing your mano pratna, but at one point you realize that your mano pratna can only get you to a certain point of only to a certain extent, after which you're totally helpless and you have to surrender with helplessness.
Beautiful.
That could be.
Yeah, beautiful, Saraji. Thank you so much. Very, very nicely put. Anand, do you want to add anything extra to that, or Sheila-ji?
I mean, people have already said a lot about it. I think it's Gajendra comes down to the reality of the situation and totally surrenders to the God. And it's at that point he realizes that there is God, and that's how he gets helped by Lord Narayana.
Thank you, Anand. Sheila-ji, you had unmuted. Anything to add, or I can carry on? Yeah.
Namaskar.
Shobha-ji, go for it.
Yeah, I heard. I'm not sure, but I just read somewhere. Did Gajendra say this Shuklam Bharadram Vishnu as a prayer?
I don't know, Shobha-ji. I can also try and think about it. I know he said Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So that's that famous mantra that comes in this. Okay, anyway, all of us got this beautiful. Thank you so much for all these contributions. Yeah, go for it, Sharath. Yes.
Thank you very much. I think it also provides us a very important lesson, particularly in Hinduism. Most of the other religions, they don't consider helplessness as being embodied with a sense of power. But I think in Hinduism, when you completely become helpless, that is when you become most powerful, because you left everything in the hands of the Lord.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharath. Again, wonderful contribution. So yes, so everybody got it spot on. So here is a philosophy also here. So Sushruth, this elephant is you and me, okay? And this crocodile is this samsara. Yeah, this samsara has grasped, it's taken its hold on us so much that how much ever we try to get ourselves rid of this samsara, we are not going to be able to do it ourselves. Yeah, the samsara is there. Samsara moksha sthiti bandha hetuhu, or Shvetashvatara Upanishad should come to us at this point. That he is the one who has actually put us in this samsara. If we think that we can get rid of it ourselves, we are seriously mistaken. So this is what this Gajendra fellow is doing. He thought this crocodile is just a small thing, is holding my leg, and he tried to pull himself out. He tried to pull himself. So for us, we may try to pull ourselves out of the samsara, but it's not going to happen unless we reach a point where then we say, I give up. I can't do this myself. And then Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And it's a beautiful thing. And he picks all the flowers from the pond. This elephant picks up the flowers from the pond, and then he throws up and says, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You are the one who has to protect me. It is at that point Vishnu comes, sheds his grace, the chakra goes, and then the crocodile is cut, and then this Gajendra, of course, is a higher elevated being, and he has his salvation. So the key message that I wanted to just share with you all is thinking about Gajendra Moksha is the total surrender. I surrender unto you. Yeah, this is what Svayambu Manu is saying in this verse. Agne Nayasupata Raye Asman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan Yuyodi Asmat Juhurana Menam Bhuishtam Te Namo Muktim Videma. Just memorize it and think about this and the Gajendra. And then we understand what our situation is. We may be, big folks in our professional lives, but at the end of the day, we are actually helpless being. We cannot escape death, okay? Which is the beginning of the next samsara, next birth. We cannot escape that. How much ever big we are, we cannot escape that. So if we have that reality in our perspective, then perhaps maybe we might be able to change our direction, and we might be able to do Nayasupataraye Asma. That is what he's telling. So the total surrender is the 9th highest stage of devotional service, right? It is the highest stage of bhakti, which is the total surrender. Yeah. So never forget this about the 9 stages of bhakti that Bhagavatam talks about. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, and the last stage, Atma Nivedanam or Atmani Vedanam or Atma Nivedanam. Surrender to the Lord or constantly think about your Antaryami. Okay? So that Atma Nivedanam, the total surrender of oneself to the Lord, is exactly what Svayambu Manu does at this point. Yeah. So again, here I'm never, as you know, I'm never tired of thinking about bhakti because it is so important. Yeah. Without bhakti, nothing can happen. So maybe I can call upon Neetaji, who is a resident expert on this particular verse about bhakti, about what Jayatirtha has told us about bhakti, and then explain to us what that bhakti actually means. And then anybody else also wants to contribute, please go ahead.
Oh. Okay, so if I start by reading it, Parameshwara Bhaktir Nama Niravadhika Ananta Anavadya Kalyana Gunatva Jnana Purvaka Swatma Atmiya Samasta Vastubhyo Pya Ananta Gunadhiko Ananta Sahasrenapya Pratibaddaha Nirantara Prema Pravaha. So I think the important message is like it's always remembering Nirantara Prema Pravaha, and above self, above all the objects that we possess, all the relatives, all and ourselves and all the objects. So that is Swa Atma Atmiya Samasta Vastubhyo. And remembering that God is full of auspicious attributes. And Kalyana Gunapurna. So having that knowledge that Bhagavanta has got auspicious attributes, and remembering that he'll be protecting us all the time. So the four parts to this bhakti. So we have to remember all this all the time. That is called bhakti.
Thank you, Neetaji. Beautiful. So yeah, so that is the true definition of bhakti, not just going to a temple and just folding our hands and put some 10 pounds into the woody and then come back. We all do this. It's such a hard thing to do. But the person who showed the true bhakti, okay, is Vayur Anilam Amrutam. That is what the Svayambu Manu is celebrating here. Yeah, the one that has shown true bhakti everywhere in the scriptures. So if you look at Hanumanta, Anila, or if you look Pruksho Vapuhu Pituman Nityashaye Dvitiyam Ashapta Shivashu Matrushu, that Bhimasena in Mahabharata, he is the highest embodiment of Nirantara Prema Pravaha. So the ones that actually read the Mahabharata carefully would observe the Bhimasena, who is the second incarnation of Vayu, which is celebrated by Svayambu Manu here as Asau and all that we have done over several classes. He is the embodiment of Nirantara Prema Pravaha. Now, he is a highly exalted jiva that can do this. But you and me, we may not be able to do at his level, but at least we can strive to achieve that level of perfection. Okay? But to achieve a level of perfection that we are capable of, we need to start somewhere, isn't it? And again, Jayatirtha always comes to our rescue. And he says, this knowing, as Neetaji said, God should be known as an abode of infinite auspicious attributes and without any defects. How are we going to know him like that? We can know him only through the Vedas. And understanding the Vedas through the Brahma Sutras. That is the only way of knowing God as an abode of infinite auspicious attributes, not as an absolute zero. That is, make us absolute zero. If you want to achieve your Purnatva, you know him as Gunapurna. He is to be known as the abode of infinite auspicious attributes and without any defects. Unless we know him, we cannot see him. Unless we see him, which is what Svayambu Manu is doing, we cannot obtain his grace. And that is what he is requesting here. Bhuishtamte namo uktim videma. He is requesting grace. Om krato smara krutam smara. That is all he is requesting for grace. God's grace is absolutely essential for release from bondage. Okay, so that is what Gajendra did. Finally, that's what we have to go. His grace has to be there. For that, we need to submit ourselves. Paramatmano atyanta binnasya swataha chidanandadi atmakasya api jivasya anadi avidya kama karmadi nimitto ayam paramartata eva anyatakaaraha dukkadi anartaha na parameshwara prasadat grace rute apagacchati nacha asakshat kruto asau prasidati nacha avidita swarupaha shakyate shakshat kartum iti, as how sakala guna karataya visesha dosha gandha vidurataya, no defects whatsoever, cha tam pratipadayetum, how asesha amnayaha pravartante. How do you understand those amnayas or Vedas? Tad upakarana bhuta cha Brahma Mimamsa iti Paramarthaha. You start off with Brahma Sutra and Veda. So this is the ladder. Okay? This is the ladder that we do. This is our journey of souls. And by doing the Chintana of Isha Upanishad, we have understood what was the journey of Svayambu Manu. And what was the final thing that he said? He said, I surrender to you. Okay? When he did that, what happened was Yagna Namaka, at that point, he actually took the post of Indra for that Manvantara and he destroys the Asuras who have come to destroy him. So you can look at it from a itihasa perspective, you can look at it from a philosophical perspective of these asuras, these karmas and all the things that binds us are destroyed by Yajna Namaka Paramatma. So that is what happened in Isha Upanishad. So we close Isha Upanishad again by reciting Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. So I think we can all congratulate ourselves because we have dedicated our time every Sunday, almost every Sunday over the last 6 months to actually think about this beautiful, beautiful Upanishad of Shukla Yajur. Yeah, seen by great rishis, starting from Chaturmukha, Svayambu Manu, Dhadyanga Atharvanaha, Katha Rishi, Yagnavalkya, and all the acharyas. They've all seen these Upanishads and given us profound knowledge. So I think we should contemplate and think about this. 18 mantras is not very hard to memorize. So I think we could actually memorize and start reciting these mantras for our own spiritual upliftment. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to close today's Upanishad Chintana. And let's see if there is no questions, then let me make a few announcements and then we'll take Q&As if there are any. So the following week, we don't have a class. So we are, as you know, some of us are traveling. Following that, on the 20th, we have an excellent session as usual, hopefully from Suresh and his team to do the last part. That is the part C of chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita. That is how we have kind of synchronized it. So Suresh ji will do the part C of chapter 18. There is a team that's already in place and doing a lot of preparation. Then following that, in the best tradition of our satsang, is every time we finish an Upanishad, we go back. We do Simha Avalokana Nyaya. We go back as lions and then see what we have read and studied and understood. So that is a very interactive group workshop that will happen on the 27th. Yeah. And we are looking for volunteers. Some of us have already come forward to contribute to that session. So we'll get some team sorted out over the next few days. Please do send messages either to me or Anand is here. Anand is very interested to do this. Fantastic, Anand. Thank you very much. So send a message to Anand or me or Sushrut or any of us. And then what we will do is we'll form a team. We want to do a workshop on Isha Upanishad with all the mantras. There are only 18 mantras. Yeah. Even if we say 3 mantras each, we have 6 folks who can do it, following by a quiz. So we'll do that session on the 27th. We got about 2 to 3 weeks to think about it. And then what I want to do is from the 3rd of September, after having discussed with a few folks, we have decided we are going to do Atharvana Upanishad, yeah, or Mundaka Upanishad. Yeah, it is like Katha Upanishad. It's a fairly big Upanishad, but it is, of course, it's a beautiful Upanishad to talk about. Yeah. So let's do Atharvana Upanishad or Mundaka Upanishad from September, but there are a few things organized for the next few weeks. Okay. So on that note, Krishna Pranamastu. Any questions?
Just a quick one. when Upanishad finishes, that repetition is there, isn't it? Twice. But there is one shloka after that repetition in this one. What is there some significance for that?
Yeah, so Neetaji, very good observation. So our Shastras tell us that in Sanskrit language, there isn't a full stop, right? You don't put a full stop and say, this sentence is now complete. So what our Rishis used to do is they'll repeat twice to indicate that this is now complete. Okay, so that is one meaning. The other meaning is when the Shastras repeat something twice, then that is a very, very important concept. So when I say Om Kratosmara Krutam Smara, Om Kratosmara Krutam Smara, it is a very important foundational concept of Vedanta or Vedic philosophy. Yeah. And similarly, when Veda Vyasa says Anavrittir Shabdat, 564th aphorism of Brahma Sutra, when he says Anavrittir Shabdat, there are again two things there. There, the meaning there is Anavrittir Shabdat is once you go to moksha, there is no return for you, mate. That is very clear. And Veda Vyasa puts it twice. 100% there is no return for you. When you go to moksha, you are happy there in eternal bliss. And also that is the last aphorism. And then he finishes the sutra. Then we understand that the Brahma Sutra is complete there. So there are two meanings to it. And it's all about context, right? So we just need to take the context. Thanks, Neetaji, but great observation.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So if there are no further questions, can I request Sushruti to take us through Omkara recitation, please? Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for an amazing Chintana of Isha Upanishad. I learned so much and it is so enlightening to do this. So let's look forward to Atharvana Upanishad, but let's ruminate on what we have learned in Isha. Okay, so see you in a couple of weeks. Look forward to Suresh's interactive session on Part C. Hare Krishna. Take care, everyone.